some with a couple of beach photos. This page is going to have a cute title, something to the effect of what nerds do when they're at the beach. Because my husband and I, we've been going to Hilton Head for years. We do some other traveling when we can, but every year in our album there's always at least one or two Hilton Head layouts, and you try to look for something different to say about the place that you go over and over again. And this particular trip was back in October, and as the days start to get shorter, for less daylight, you're going to be indoors a little bit more, so we both took things to work with that would keep us occupied besides just being out on the beach and bikes and all the fun things that we like to do. My husband took some circuit boards and an old laptop to do some work with, and I took my knitting, and I don't have a picture of me doing knitting, but I'm wearing this get-up that I like to wear sometimes on this beach, this old kind of slightly large shirt, old pair of shorts, and this fun hat that is just the most comfortable thing. It has this brim that you can adjust, and it's really, really functional and comfortable, but I don't know that it's the most attractive thing on me. And through a trick of photography, there's a man fishing off the top of my hat. But I had these two pictures and I thought they sort of went together. I've pulled out some cardstock. I looked at my pattern paper a little bit, but I knew that I didn't really have anything great that would go with this, and it's been a while since I did a cardstock based layout. When I was doing classes, that was one of my most popular classes. It was the first one I did, creative cardstock. It was one of my most popular ones. Lots of ways to use your cardstock and not even use very little or not any pattern paper on a layout. So I have some Stampin' Up! White, Wisteria Wonder, an old shade of blue that's discontinued. I think that's Brocade Blue, Pear Pizzazz, and Sahara Sand. Now you can no longer buy very much Stampin' Up! Cardstock in 12 by 12, but you could do a lot of this with other brands, or you could kind of piece some cardstock together if you needed to. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do. I just know that I want to use those and do some of my background stamps and maybe some just embossing, just sort of tone-on-tone kinds of looks. Not really sure, but recently Craftsy had a free unlimited weekend where you could try out any of their classes just for a couple of days, and one of the classes that I spent a lot of time with was Radiant Stamping. I do not remember the lady's name, but I'll try to include the link for that on the in the description for this video. I don't remember what the class costs, but it was free that particular weekend, or if you're a Craftsy Unlimited member, you can use it, or you can go into it. But it was a great class about stamping and creating card designs, and it inspired me to want to use my stamps some more on my scrapbook pages. And this particular set, this is an old set from Hampton Art, it's called Fabulous Flowers. I used a technique of hers. I'm not going to duplicate the exact technique, it's her technique, but I'm going to do some similar things with this where I have some color behind the black images. I'm going to do mine with watercolors. She did hers with stamping. But I'm going to get something like this going across the page. And the reason I'm doing these flowers is, to me, they almost look like little gears. They sort of go with this theme of working with circuit boards and stuff, and the circuit boards don't have round stuff on there like this, but still it has that appearance to me. It's kind of what says that to me, and it's detailed, and it kind of picks up stuff in the shirt, and it's just something that I thought went really well with this theme of having something to do besides walk on the beach and that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of fun mixing in our regular activities with our beach days, and I want to show that. So I'm going to use these stamps. I am going to do some watercolors, I think, for the back. I'm going to have to play a little bit, so I'll get my watercolors out and do that. And then, as I say, I'm going to do some stamping for these colors, because what I'm envisioning here is cutting these in strips, maybe wavy strips, and doing the whole thing on this Sahara Sand background. That's kind of what I have in mind for right now. So let's take this white cardstock, and I might end up doing watercolor paper too, but for right now I have this white cardstock. The Stampin' Up! White is the same as their 8.5 by 11, so things stamp really well on it. I'm going to take that, and I'm going to get some watercolors out and start playing with some colors, and then stamping over them in black archival ink. I've got 3 different types of paper here. I have the Stampin' Up! Paper I'm going to experiment with, my regular plain cardstock that I use, this knee-high cover cardstock. I'll have to put that on the screen, what type of paper that is that I use. And I was going to do watercolor paper, but I realized I don't have any 12 by 12 watercolor paper left, but I do have this mixed media paper, so I have a strip of that. We'll see how that works. I have a feeling that's going to be the best, but let's see. We're just going to experiment by taking a couple of the colors, placing the colors on each of the different papers. What I find very quickly is that the Nina cardstock that I had, I didn't put the particular one on the screen because it didn't work. it was a little bit of the paper fibers were coming up through the wet watercolors, and that just didn't work. So that one went away pretty fast. So we're left with the mixed media paper. I did several samples and I've let those dry, and also the Stampin' Up! Paper. I've got two colors of archival ink. I have some gray and some black, so I'm experimenting with those. The gray turns out to be just about as dark as the black, but I did end up going with that one. I was looking for a little bit softer color. I even tried stamping off with the gray. I probably should have tried the black and stamping off with the black. So you stamp once on scrap paper and then stamp on your design. But I'm going to I really didn't want to have to do stamping off because I'm going to have a lot of these to do on one piece of paper. And when you start trying to adjust your color by stamping off, it may not come out right on every one, and then you have a lot of variation. So I ended up doing, I believe, the gray for all of them. And I'm choosing the mixed media paper is the best effect for this. They're real close. They're really, really close, and I was pleased with how well the Stampin' Up! Cardstock held up with all that watercolor, but the mixed media, it curls a bit, and the mixed media paper is just a little bit better option. So those sheets come, I think they were 9 by 11 or something, or no, 9 by 12. So since I had a 12-inch width, I was able to cut down a piece of 12-inch for that. And that's what I'm doing here, is adding all of my different colors across. And I'm just doing them in big circles of color. And then we're going to stamp them with these rounded images. I have some of the twinkling H2Os that I'm using also. They don't twinkle a whole lot on this, but you get a little bit of that effect. They're interesting. They're the kind of things, so I use them because I have them. I would probably not buy more of those. Just regular watercolors is fine for what I need. And I bought my watercolor set at Hobby Lobby, really cheap, and I've used it over and over again. If you were only going to invest in one color product for scrapbooking or stamping, a set of watercolors is the cheapest, most versatile thing you can own. Now, I love my distress inks. I love a lot of the things that I have, but I have watercolors, I have gelatos, I have regular acrylic paints. I've gotten probably more out of the money I spent for watercolors than anything that I've ever bought. I'm using just a touch of green. I didn't know how the green would work. As it turned out, it got a little muddy and almost a sandy color, so it kind of worked well for the beach. But I had some green in my shirt, and that's why I kind of went with the green in there, even though it's not a really beachy color. Now my circle designs are not going to line up perfectly with all these circles in the background. I start out that way, but they're going to have to adjust some. The idea behind these designs is I want them to be close together. Now this is taking from a little bit from another lesson in that Radiant Stamping class, and in the other lesson where she used images more like this, she was doing a real symmetrical design. Mine's not symmetrical. I'm just doing the rounded images, working from the center out, and filling in the spaces with some of the small flowers, smaller designs. And some of them don't appear to be completely stamping, but a little bit of that is the light. There's a little bit of glare where I had the twinkling H2Os. And it helps to have all of these stamps that you're going to use on different stamp blocks so they're all ready to go, and you can just move around, mix and match in your space and sort of fill in all the space. And it creates a really fun border going across. We'll trim it off a little bit, maybe even round the edges some. I'm going to do some of my other backgrounds with kind of a wave look, so that's what I've done here, is just take a pencil and mark it like it was a big wave, and then trim that out. This is kind of thick paper. It's one of the reasons why it doesn't curl, I guess. And another technique from the class was to fill in with a little bit of white paint pen on some of these designs. I did a little bit of that. I didn't do a ton because I had so many of them. And I had to search, and in fact my white paint pen didn't really work all that well on that watercolors. It kept picking up the color in the background. If I was stamping ink, it wouldn't have done that. So I just used a white pencil for quite a bit of it, and then in places where I was going over the black ink, I could use a white marker. Alright, so this is going on my background of the Sahara Sand cardstock, and I'm going to take the other cardstocks and do some embossing on the back of these. Just to continue the only cardstock look, and one of the ways to make your cardstock more interesting is to just stamp and emboss in clear ink, Versamark, and use clear embossing powder, and that will give you a tone-on-tone effect that looks really good on your backgrounds. That's a Lawn Fawn stamp, the border stamp. I've got some other background stamps like from Hero Arts that I'm going to use. Just coating with the clear powder, and then we'll go over that with the heat gun. And I normally cut the heat gun part out of my videos, but I forgot to do that this time. But it's on fast forward, so it'll go pretty fast as we see that design coming through. And I do several of these, and even a little bit of the green and some different backgrounds. And on the purple one, I tried adding a little ink over the top, and that gave me a little bit of a different look. But I just really like the embossed tone-on-tone kind of effect, even without any extra color to it. We'll trim all those down in some scallopy edges in a moment. I did feel like I needed a little bit more of the blue, so I'm doing it with, this is a Hero Arts chevron stamp. Almost all my stamps are very old, and I just haven't bought anything in ages. But you can find, of course, a lot of similar things if you can't find the exact thing. And there we are doing some, again, some large scallop wave designs is really more what it is. And then we'll fit those around the border, and we'll lay the photos over top. And I'm doing a little bit of that green too, just sneaking a little bit of that color. There's some on the bottom, and then there's going to be just a little bit in the middle. Now with all of that design that's in the stamped part, I'm not going to need a lot of embellishment. I did feel like that these pretty white clouds would look cute. I just used these on another layout. But then I thought, you know, I'm doing all of the stamping. Do I have some clouds? Well, I knew I had some cloud stamps. These were part of a Hampton Arts, I think it's Hampton Arts, Valentine's set. But I have used them over and over again for just regular clouds. And this time I have white embossing powder. Now they're not as crisply white as they would be if I had used, you know, the die cuts. And I thought a little bit about using some of my mixed media supplies, but I decided to stick with the stamping and do several clouds. And so there they are embossed, and I added the words at the bottom, "How do nerds do the beach?" and in a beige thicker. And then I'm looking for a little bit of embellishment. I looked at these brads and finally decided that some of these crystals would be a better option, better color-wise, and just kind of finishing off the page. The journaling is just typed in little rows up at the top, some of the cute things, some of the things that we did that are a little different this trip. And this is wrapping up my page. So I hope you enjoyed it, and you can find me at lisaedesign.com. Thanks for watching.